tension. More tension is going to end up breaking the plate. So the fire's still a problem because we've had, I mean, to be fair, I don't watch much news over in this country anyway. Certainly haven't seen any coverage of it. And the few kind of internet news I watch on YouTube, they haven't mentioned it at all. It's almost like same old shit from Canada. Why bother? Is it starting to die down at all? For context sake, this little piece of metal, this is sterling silver. Obviously, it's dirty and covered in welding stone, heatscape. That's about 500, maybe 600 Canadian dollars. And all of this is scrap that was melted down from previous projects. If I'm cutting something out of the sheet like I'm going to be doing today, I'll collect up the scraps in my scraps tin. So this is mostly bits and pieces and offcuts. They get collected up and then they get melted down for the next project. Wow, okay, that's worse than it's been for a long time, isn't it? There's a couple of Canadians I follow that are over in Alberta, and they've been complaining about it really bad. And a couple of guys over in BC have been saying it's starting to affect them as well. It's blowing all over the place. Is it dust mask kind of time? I'm sure everybody's got all those leftover COVID masks that need to get used for something. I mean, I've got boxes of them still. Right, I'm going to see if I can make this chat window a bit bigger because I'm losing it off the side of my screen. I can only see maybe one message at a time at this point. So let's get there. Better. Right, now I can see Sam and Lindsay's messages. Black Mark looks like a platypus. With the screw in it. Yeah. That was a project I did for Dahlia when I made her that custom ring from her doodles. And I had to fill in the gaps with enamel paint. All the gas from the paint had leaked out, so I had to pierce the top and kind of dribble some out of it. Kind of splashed everywhere. It's now a permanent fixture on the bench, so I've just decided to leave it. One of those little battles, because I mean you can see the bench is all splattered in paint. Just one of those little battle scars that happens, and I'm kind of okay with that. Right, so let's do little blocks here. Are we focused? Yes, we're focused. 4:30 here. We've just gone 5 hours. It's only 6 when your clocks go back, because your North America clocks go back 2 weeks before ours do. Sorry. North America clocks go back 2 weeks before the rest of the world does. It's only North America that seems to do their summertime on a different schedule. I still don't understand that, but Americans and, you know. Okay, so if we, I don't know if you can see this. Zoom in. You can see there the cross-section of the metal. Now most of those stripes there in the metal is my cutting. That's from using the saw to cut through. But what there aren't any is cracks. There's no cracks in there. No fissures, no voids, which meant that when this did melt, it was a good melt. It was just the surface that was a bit scraggy. Parts of Australia. Yes, I can't remember which parts though. And there are some of the smaller islands that don't, and some, I think, some countries in South America. This is methyl silicate, which is a lubricant suspended in alcohol, which will evaporate off really fast. It's good for lubricating the saw blades. That way it doesn't leave any kind of oily residue behind. Everything here, apart from the computer gear, everything here is my dad's tools. He taught me a bit, but nowhere near enough. And I'm figuring out the rest as I go. The blade is dragging and creating friction. So you say don't burn myself. Burning myself is a constant thing. Either hot metal, when I'm sanding or filing or polishing. I have burned myself on the microflame before. Burned myself picking up this. Because I picked my finger touched the ferrule on, you can't see from there, the ferrule on the end of this smelting rod. I touched that once and the whole thing was red hot. Well, not red hot, you couldn't see that it was red hot, that was part of the problem. The whole thing was hot. I accidentally touched the very tip and I had a blister on my finger for about 2 weeks. So, yeah, getting burns is part of the process. It's 2 bits, 3 bits there. Should be enough to make a sheet large enough to do some cutting. Got some more scraps that I'm going to throw in. I'm not even sure that's silver. I don't know, Sam, you remember this ring that I've pretty much worn most of my life? That is actually the original ring, because that broke at some point last year. It had broken. Every time I pick up something heavy, the joins would crack, and it cracked and broke so many times that every single joint had been repaired. It got to a point now, and again, I don't know if you can be able to see this, like this. So the metal in here is very rough and porous. If I was to file it a little under, put it under the microscope, you'd see it looks like foam because it was a bad casting. That was a ring that my very first girlfriend gave me, and it had been worn so long, it had left a permanent mark on it. There we go. So you can see I've been wearing that ring on there for so long, so I made a new one. Same design, but I made a new one. So at some point, either this will be the leftovers, I'll melt down and use in a project such as this, or it'll just go to be melted away for scrap. The trouble is there's so much solder in here from all the repairs, and you will actually see this when I'm doing the melting. Looking for those scraps that can go in there and get melted back down. What you'll see is when I melt down the metal and I'm starting to heat treat it, you'll see like a liquid glossy surface on top of the metal. That's all the solder, which has a much lower melting temperature than the silver itself. That's all that solder lifting up to the surface, and I have to file that off. I've got to get rid of that because that's going to compromise the metal overall. But this is all stuff that I'm kind of learning as I go, because I'm trying to work with as much scrap as possible. I was born in Guyana, which is kind of next to Suriname and Venezuela, on the northern border of Brazil. Right, we're going to start with the propane now. So I'm going to start smelting. Let's get as much of the stuff out of the way because I may need to evacuate quickly. Got fire extinguishers behind me. And I think you've probably seen me do this stuff on stream before. Yeah, so Ghana is the place in Africa. That's West Africa near the Ivory Coast. Guyana is just above Brazil, between Venezuela and Suriname. Technically, it's classified as part of the Caribbean because it's Caribbean culture and Caribbean food and such. Right, propane is out. and almost liquid. It's got like a mercury, you see the surface bubbling. That's all the solder that's in the metal. And that's all the stuff I'm going to have to file away. And now you can see that part there where it's starting to go completely liquid. Compared to the other pieces which haven't even gotten close to that temperature yet. And that's more because of the thermal mass that they have. So now that the park is done, are you planning to do any streaming yourself? Or are we getting back to D&D? Well, I've been fixing my sound coming on the stream today. I know there's a lot more I need to do for that. I need to adjust the camera at some point here. Your webcam should have a mic on it. And it's not going to be particularly good quality, but it might be better than nothing. I'm using the mic off my laptop at the moment. I was watching, I'm taking the heat away, and the metal's cooled down. Have a good one then, Linz. I should be here for a while. Yeah, the propane is very, very loud. I'm having to shout anyway. But this is this is about the same noise as a power drill. So you can see the metal moving around, very liquid now. I think you can see that on there. I don't want to do too much against the spills. can see on camera, I'll bring it back a bit. See, there's like a liquid edge to the metal, and then a more matte, scaly part. That matte, scaly bit is all the impurities coming out of the metal. And that's all stuff I have to file off before I can start working with it. That's the downside to using recycled metal. Is this metal's already full of solder and dirt and flux from being used before. It's not pure silver. I have pure silver, but I don't want to use that if I can avoid it. And this stuff needs used up anyway, so why not? Right, I think we are good to pour. That didn't go quite to plan. We've got a little bit left over. Everything's going to be super hot for a while. I'll remember not to touch anything. So that's the bulk of it. We have a little bit of slag left behind. That little bit of metal I'm going to have to remelt at some point because that didn't come out. And that's the bit that I've poured. And you can see the kind of burned parts on the top there. All that has to be filed away. That black stuff has to be filed away. And let me move it to frame. There we go. That black stuff needs to be filed away. And this little lump here, that is going to be sold up from previous jobs. All that needs to be filed off. And then I should have clean metal underneath. So, let me zoom out. I've got a copper plate on the workbench. But that's plate, but this is what that's for. So, rest it there. That gives it a chance to cool down. Can't touch that. I've burnt myself by touching that before. This is wood, so that's safe. Ooh, right. So that's that done for a bit. The acid is on. I need to get more water because my water levels are low. So switch back to full face, and I'll be back in a minute. I'll get some extra. So that's going into pickling salts or pickling acid, which will kind of attack all the dirt and clean up the metal. Okay, just waiting for everything to cool down. Wrap this up and get this out of the way. It's only a small propane bottle, just a little one. I do have a bigger one down in the garage, and there's an even bigger one on the patio heater in the garden, which you may find out about at some point if you ever get your ass over here. I don't know how Indiana Jones does this. He's only got a little bit to deal with. I'm trying to do this with a rubber hose. That has seen better days, to be fair. And that's still warm. So. And those are going to be too hot to touch for some time now. Well, I'm not going to be doing anything for at least the next 20 minutes. The metal I just melted down is in the acid, getting cleaned up. You can't see no big loss. That's getting cleaned up in the acid, so that's taking all the scorch marks and all the crap off the surface, and then I'll file that down. This is going to be too hot to touch for at least 20 minutes, so I don't even have anywhere to move it. I can't even put it somewhere else, so it's out of the way. So that's got to stay where it is for now. Still an awful lot of crap on this crucible. I need to scrape that out at some point. Sacrifice a teaspoon and scrape out the crucible. Well, again, as soon as you're here, let me pull my webcam out and show you around the workshop. Do we need to, I think I need to create a new scene. So let's do a new scene with just this webcam. Video capture device and existing HD webcam. Okie dokie. There we go. So now you've got a semi-roving view of my workshop. All the drawers filled with jewelry tools. Do I know how to use some of this, most of this stuff? Mostly. Chemicals and larger stuff underneath. There's the propane tank. That's the skin that catches all the filings, and then you've got all my tweezers and pliers there underneath the skin. Files, mostly files, hammers, the aquaflame unit, which is what generates the hydrogen gas. That's the mill, so that you run the metal through that, and it kind of squeezes everything down. And then more drawers at the back, more drawers at the front. That's the magnetic polisher. Bits and pieces and spares. This tray is all watch stuff, more watch pins and stuff for servicing and cleaning watches. I'm still learning that stuff. And then, yeah, this is what's. Oh, that just went off for a second. Right, that little webcam's just suddenly decided it doesn't want to work. Okay, I'm not too sure what's happened to that one. Probably because I kinked the cable a little. It's disconnected. Anyway, get that back into place. Right. Okay, we're back now. Yeah, that little webcam, as soon as you move the cable, it must have disconnected. But yeah, that's what the under here bits of the workshop look like. Right. Just trying to multi-window so I can keep an eye on the chat. I've done a couple of VR streams in the last week or so, not particularly long ones. Get these AirPods out, my audiobook isn't running anyway. A couple of VR streams. I think I actually streamed Helldivers briefly, which is not something I normally do. But yeah, this idea has been kind of knocking around in my head for a while. Let's see, what else do we have? Oh, I can show you this. This is the project I was working on for Marie. Oh, nice. Got Iron Maiden. I haven't listened to Iron Maiden since I was a teenager. So that, oh, switch camera. Actually, no, I can probably show you it here. That is the piece I was working on for Marie. That is the coat of arms for her fiance's club. And, I mean, you can see the scale if I hold my thumbnail up to it. It's about a little bit more than fingernail sized. That's going to be a set of cufflinks. Shade some of the light off it. Got the window behind the laptop. So that's going to be molded and cast into a set of cufflinks for a wedding day present. And that is the original design, which I basically cut out of paper, glued down onto the sheet metal, and then cut out of sheet metal, which is the process I'm doing today. Because I need to get better at cutting. Sounds like a simple thing to do, but using that saw, I was breaking so many blades because I wasn't getting the tension on that saw right. That buzzing in the background is the ultrasonic. So cutting with a saw is another little skill that I need to practice. But that's ready to go away for casting. I just need to have some money behind me to do that, because it's not a cheap process. Those are some cast rings that have come back, which now need to be cleaned up and then have the stones set. These are a design I made years ago when I was learning under my dad. I think you've seen the pictures of these. This is the kind of what looks like teardrops or little raindrops in a puddle. So those up. I need to get some stones to sort those out. And then also here, the prototype for Oh, hang on, let me get. Where am I? Yeah, that's the prototype for the Medusa ring, which you have one of. That's the remaining metal of the makume that your feather was made of. Your feather was actually cut off this end of the bar because that was already flattened out a little. So that's all the metal I've got left of that Damascus silver and gold. So that means I'm going to be making another project with that soon. And that's just completed jobs. So I think I'm going to start with the Ghost. Because that is the car's nickname. I don't know if you remember, Sam, I had the Ghost sticker on one charging port for one side of the car, and I had the little lizard on the other charging port cover. The Ghost is the symbol for the Swedish Air Force Ghost Squadron. And when Christian von Koenigsegg created Koenigsegg, the supercar company, well, the hypercar company, he took that in honor of the Swedish Air Force, and he used the Ghost symbol. So the Ghost is going to be is already on the car because that's its nickname, Wilma's Ghost. So I'm going to make that, and I'm trying to decide which size. Is this? That's still hot. I can feel the heat coming up. Yeah, that's all still hot. Let's leave that up here, and hopefully it's not going to set fire to anything. So yeah, the car was called Wilma's Ghost. Right, hang on, let me get my car keys because I need to work out the size. Okay, my actual car keys. Now, lights, Aziz, light. That on there, that Porsche logo, that's a sticker. I want to pull that. That's way too small. That's my charging earring. So I touch that. That's an RFID earring. So there's an RFID chip back. So when I'm charging the car, I just have to touch that up against the charger rather than digging around in my wallet trying to find the charge card. So realistically, how big do I want this to be? You can remove these crests because they are just stuck on. So I could pry that off and replace it with something else, but then it would have to be the same shape. Now, if I do the Porsche one, I don't think I'm going to be able to cut all these fine details as easily as I would like. I'm certainly not going to be able to do that with the top because I'm going to have to basically hand engrave that, and that's not something I've ever done before. Now I could cut all the way through the metal, so kind of silhouette that, but even trying to do the name Stuttgart and such lettering, it's fine on here, but I don't think I'm going to manage that. It would be nice though. It'd be nice to give it a go, maybe in the larger size. Give that one a larger size, but that's still going to be great big plate of silver. But yeah, the engraving part is the bit that I want to practice because it's not something I've ever done before. Now I can engrave it and just do basically the way this has been made. They've engraved the section. It's probably done in CNC, but they would have engraved this in and then they filled it with enamel and applied it. So the red has gone red, the black has gone black, and that's sitting in the trough. Gold is proud. You know, what would be nice would be to fill the black sections with actual onyx. I've got some onyx stone knocking around somewhere, or leftovers. And then these red sections to actually set those with rubies. That would be nice. Yeah, that would be really nice. One day. When I'm a lot better at this, maybe. But as far as the ghost goes, but the second question is where is it going to go? Because that key doesn't live on me, only in the summertime, so I only have to carry this in my door key and my car key. That is my glow in the dark key rings. I'm sure you remember glowing because I keep those in my bags and I keep them in the dark. Let's move this around a bit, get a bit more room on here. Unfortunately, the car's actually been behaving herself these last couple of months. The last time I had any issues with it was Christmas, where I got stranded down in London because it wouldn't turn on. And that was another battery balance, which got sorted out reasonably quickly, but being stranded down south and then having to get hire cars and all kinds of nonsense to get myself back up and running. Because I had to get to a meeting. I was actually due to go to a client a couple of days later. Sorry, the day after shooting. So I had to, and that was in Birmingham nearby. So I had to get a hire car to do that and then get home. And then it took about a week and a half, and then I had to go back all the way down to London, which is now 7 hours, to pick up the car when they'd finished. They did a good job. They got it done relatively quickly. 2 weeks, especially over Christmas and New Year's, is a fantastic time. The first time I had the rebuild done took 7 weeks because they had a shortage of parts because they just announced that as a major recall. So I'm glad I was able to get it back quickly enough. But nonetheless, it was a massive inconvenience. And all because the battery was out of balance and nobody can rebalance the batteries. Which camera am I looking at? I can look at this one. I can actually look at this one. I can come in. So, yeah, it was what it was. I'm sure a lot of people will be shouting and screaming about it, demanding compensation. I didn't really go down that route, but I did have strong words with Porsche UK about that this is not the first time this happened. It was actually the second and a half. And at some point I'm going to it's a vehicle. The most of the melted one of them took a much melted one of the backwards of my tripod sitting right here and it's in the clay. Actually I think there's also a bit of broken plastic off the yeah, that looks like that's crap at some point. No idea when that happened. This is my dad's old camera tripod that I'm working on, by the way. Seems appropriate that it's in here with all of his tools around me. Right. Let's get. So, what to do to my cutting? No, I'm not cutting yet. Okay. So that's fresh out of the asset. You can see most of the crap on it. All the black scorch marks that are really close to that now I'm not going to use that one to open the next melt. But on the surface here, I need to file all this crap off the surface here because a lot of that was old solder melting out of the metal. These are just the tips from the hydrogen machine, the gas storage that I use for soldering pieces together, so it's cleaning out the insides of these. That's what we're running it in for something, just kind of getting all the crap out of inside the nozzles. Not sure that's what we're supposed to do, but I have got a pipe clean line enough to go down to syringe point. Because that is quite literally needle fine. You see my camera actually focusing on it there. That's nice, isn't it? Right. So yeah, that's what the acid does. It cleans up all the scorch marks, gets all the crap off the surface, the carbon and whatnot. And then I've got to file that clean, and then I can start running it through the mill. This is the bit where it's kind of killing my hands because this needs so much hand strength. That's what I'm looking for. Now the camera stopped working again. Yeah, it'll come back when it's ready, I suppose. That camera's always a little bit dodgy. I use it for VR streaming. I think it's just the fact that there's too many things connected into this laptop. Can I spare that USB port? Maybe. Okay, let's see if this will help. No, my luck, it'll just cause more problems. But there may not be enough power running through that USB hub to do the big cam and my other web camera. There we go, that's back. Right. Not making a huge amount of progress. Can I use a burr grinder? Oops. I didn't want to do that. No boxing either files. Could use a burr grinder. That just start rotating and it spins very fast. Grinds off the surface of the metal. Not something I'm particularly good with. see, this is messy. And the metal gets hot really quick. Metal gets really hot using these. Right. Okay, camera seems to be working. Cool. Okay. Well, thanks for hanging around, Sam. Yeah, my spare bedroom is mostly storage at the minute as well. So yeah, I'm going to be on for a while. So pop by if you can, and let me know when you're planning to stream. We'll need to get all your mods back on deck for that, won't we? Oh, I meant to ask, did Dawson start his truck yet? Yeah, did Dawson start on his truck yet? I know you've not had a huge amount of time. You were out because you were camping with him on his birthday. Well, I'm glad he's enjoying it. He doesn't really sell Fords, does he? I hope he doesn't get in trouble for building a Ford model during his work right at a GMC dealership. Facebook keeps sending me his friends to add on my profile. Right, I'm grinding down here to stop all the silver spraying up all over the place, which is why you can't really see what I'm doing. So I'm doing all the grinding down here to catch the cuts. Oh, Chrysler, Ford, Honda. Okay, so the dealer does a bit of everything. Okay, so that's taking some of the crap off the surface. What I'm going to do is now heat the metal, anneal it, soften it up again. Normally the metal work hardens, but grinding isn't going to harden the metal. But heating it up to like a nice cherry red color, if they're still solder on the surface of the metal, that's what I need to get off. If there's still solder there, it'll rise up to the surface and you'll see it shimmering like liquid on the surface. So I can bring that up to the surface and then I know how much more I need to grind. So Let's get the micro weld up and running. I gave this micro weld machine, you can't see that. This guy over here gave this a bit of a service yesterday. Turns out I really don't know what I'm doing with our machine anyway. But it has been about 6 months since I've used it. Right. I might need to be topping up some fluids and machines. So I'm just going to heat the metal and anneal it, soften it out. Silver, it has to get to kind of a cherry red colour. What you may see though is like a liquid mercury kind of shimmer over the surface of the metal. You can already see there's two different colours here though. lay the flame over it. There's a dark bit facing the camera. See, there's a much darker area towards the camera, which may well be the solder. I'm still learning how to read the metal. But this will cause the solder to kind of move its way around on the surface of the metal. If I see that kind of liquidy sheen, I know there's still solder to remove. Because that ring that I threw in at the last minute was filled with an awful lot of solder. So there, I can see there's still solder in the surface. That's getting more liquid, while the metal isn't. So there's still a lot of solder on the surface there. And when it's burning green, that would normally be copper. I don't know why there's copper in there. That might be from the enamel that's still in that heating. So all that stuff on the surface there, that's liquid now, needs to go. So that's nice and hot. We'll let that cool down. Oh, still not centered. So that's gone all kind of crinkly on the surface. You see over there. See all that kind of crinkle on the surface. That stuff I need to get off. I need to file all that away. Because that's all going to be solder from previous repair jobs. So I believe that's cooled down slowly. That'll help to soften the metal. If you quench it straight into cold liquid, that will shock the metal and it will keep it hard. It'll kind of harden the crystals of the metal. Whereas if everything's nice and fluid, as long as you let it cool down gently, it doesn't kind of crystallize. So that keeps it nice and soft. That's the annealing process. Log back into everything. It's been so long since I've used this machine. go. Let that cool down for a bit. The thing I need to sort out is my monitor mount. I mean, yeah, people would pay for this stuff. The trouble is this stuff's expensive, and people want cheap jewelry. So unless you're mass producing, which I certainly can't be, having someone commission a bit of work. I mean, the only person that's really commissioned work for me so far has been the engagement ring I did for Dale, and the cufflinks that Marie asked me to make. You got to bear in mind, Sam, that your feather would be, for the time, and even if I didn't take into account my time, because technically I'm still learning. If I don't take into my account my time, the materials would still be 500 plus Canadian dollars, because that's silver and gold. The ring, just a silver, weight alone, it's going to be 300 to maybe 400 Canadian. This key ring that I'm making will probably work out to about 250, maybe 300 Canadian, just in metal. You add in my time, which, I mean, I'm not even journeyman, let alone apprentice, could be, what, $50 an hour? By the time you get a finished piece, 1,000, 2,000 Canadian. People can't afford to pay that. So I'm also not willing to charge for my time because I'm still learning. Because I know, like with Marie's cufflinks, I had to restart that project 5, 6, maybe 7 times before I finally got it right. I'm learning as I'm going, and every time I restarted it, I got it finished a hell of a lot quicker than I had before. With Dale's ring, I had about a year to make it, and I still just about managed to deliver it on time. And I restarted that from scratch about 4 or 5 times as well, because I just couldn't get it right. So I wouldn't be comfortable charging for my time, as in hours worked. I might add on 10 20% to cover some of it. But yeah, the metal is about 2/3 of the price of the piece. Your necklace, let me think. I did it over 2 streams and I was working in the garage on a temporary bench. That would have been 6, maybe 7 hours of work to do that. But the metal, the actual billet of metal, the gold and silver Damascus was already made. That was left over from when I made Joni and Cole's pieces. So the Damascus billet was 10 or 15 hours to make up that block of metal, which I can now use to make other pieces. So yeah, let's call it 6 hours of work. If I was charging you for metal and for time, it's nearly $1,000 Canadian for what I gave you. The Medusa ring is only cheaper because I've molded it, and I can get a cast made because I've got the master mold. I can get a cast made, send off the rubber mold. They'll make one up, send it me. All I'm going to do is clean it up and mount the chains. That's nice and quick. The downside, I've got to have sufficient capital behind me to send out work to be cast, and I just don't have the money to spare. So potentially I could, if I do enough of this on stream, maybe. But I'm still learning, and I don't think I'm going to learn anywhere near enough in whatever time I've got left. There's so much to learn that I didn't learn from my dad. It would have taken me years to learn everything my dad knew, and I had maybe a couple of weeks worth of that, maybe a couple of months worth of that time in which to learn. So that's going to be difficult now. The Cthulhu ring I bought off Amazon. Could I make that from scratch? Possibly, yeah. Possibly. It's a very fiddly little design, but it was. I saw that on Amazon, and why the hell? But yeah, your chain ring. I think you watched me refinishing and assembling that chain ring on one of the streams. Yeah, there's not a huge amount of demand for custom jewelry, and if you are, you've got to be right up at the top of the tree to get that kind of work in, which is why I need to do more of these little jobs where I can learn, and I need to learn more, because until I've learned how to do all this stuff, I can't even consider, I wouldn't feel comfortable charging people for my time when I barely know what I'm doing. So I like to keep this a hobby because then the tax man doesn't get involved, and I'm only charging for my costs and my materials at this stage, which is negligible. This is my other project today. I've got to remount my monitor arms because I used to have a pair of monitors up here. At the moment, I've only got the one for the CCTV system. There needs to be a pair of monitors up here, one with Twitch chat and one with my CCTV. The whole stand came down when the shelf fell off because I used to have 2 shelves up here. There's only the one at the moment. One of the shelves came down and kind of tore all the bolts out of the wall, and the monitor arms fell down with it. I haven't put them back up yet because the shelf is a bit weak. I have supported the shelf now. Well, the remaining shelf is supported well, so I shouldn't have any issues in that taking the weight. But I've still got to redo all the wiring and stuff up here. So while the metal's in the acid, I could be doing that, but that would mean interrupting the stream layout. You're actually looking past my drill, by the way. That's what's at the top of this bar. This is my kind of Dremel style drill here. Not particularly hot here today, low 20s, which is comfortable. I've got the fans going, just all the air moving because there's no extraction in this room. And I am working with chemicals, I'm working with hot acids, I'm working with hydrogen and the propane. Why did you not use the hotel? You just end up sleeping in the car or something. Most of the heat wave, we've had 2 heat waves down south when it's been up in the 40s, 40 Celsius down there, and it gets really sticky because we're on the coast. Oh yes, because the thing, the concert got cancelled, didn't it, for the fires. Well, 2 nights in a hotel isn't the end of the world. At least you've got to change the scenery and change the pace. I mean, I was sitting around in a hotel like yours for almost a week because I was sick while you were all sick. But because we were sick, so I just sat around in the hotel. I've done that twice because of you. Did that in Brighton as well. Yeah, London was in the mid 40s weather-wise. Once you're down on the streets, it's probably into the high 40s. Up here, we got to about low 30s. So it hasn't been too bad here, but I'm right by the coast, so I usually get a nice coastal breeze. City centre up here wasn't too bad, but I can, when I made up the billet of metal that your feather was made from, that day, well, that week, because it was working about 3 or 4 hours a day over the course of a week, inside my dad's workshop with no ventilation, no fans running, it was over 50 degrees. And because I'm using the hand mill, we're using propane to melt the metal down. We've then got to twist it. We're using the vices, using big heavy tools. It's all hand worked. It's more like blacksmithing than goldsmithing. Yeah, N95s, yeah. The N400s are the bacterial ones that we have for COVID. N95 is for dust and smoke particles. But yeah, when I was making up that billet of metal, it must have been in the mid-50s in that workshop. I think at one point I went outside and turned the hose pipe on and just soaked myself, and then came back in. But that's just what the workshop was like. He didn't like having fans going because there's silver dust everywhere. I've been grinding silver, I've been filing silver today. There's dust all over. You've seen me sweeping it up with the paintbrush on the bench. That's all money, and if you've got fans going, that's money getting blown out the window, as far as he's concerned. Which, yeah, he was doing it every day. That's different. I'm doing it not even once a month. So yeah, temperature, my thermometer in here, the battery's died. Actually, that's something I can do more on my team. The battery that was I did order replacement batteries, I just haven't got around to doing this one. Well, you see me filing and scraping away bits of silver so far today. Probably only a couple of grams, but that's about 20 Canadian right there. That's been caught in the lead skin. And that'll all get swept away, swept up, put in a jar, and sent off for recycling. All the projects I've done so far have been relatively small scale. I haven't done anywhere near enough work to generate a huge amount of scrap. And I've done, a good 20 or 30 projects since I've set up the workshop here. This is all the scrap that I've got. So that's don't focus. So that's it. Just a small jar's worth of scrap. There's not a huge amount in there. Some of that is broken saw blades as well, which is steel. I'm trying to remember which battery this is. I've got drawers and drawers of batteries. Most of them are out of date. I don't think it would be 142 too quick. LR43 and LR44 are calculator batteries. This is a long shoot. I can't find the battery range. Let's see what the conversion chart is. I don't have one up on the screen anymore. 135. Possible band evader. Thank you very much. Right, 11:30. Which ones was I by? Nearest equivalent is AG10. Okay, so it's an AG10 battery I'm looking for. There we go. There you go. You stay there. I don't need you yet. These are all the stupid little jobs I get done while I'm waiting for all the stuff to happen. So I'll hurry up and wait nonsense. That training course I was on had to be cancelled because it turned out I was no longer eligible for the funding. So I got 2 weeks in and then had to scrap it. Hopefully I didn't cost them too much money, but definitely a pain in the backside. I mean, I learned a hell of a lot while I was there, so I'm grateful for that. But still, very much a pain. So we are 25, nearly 26 degrees here in the workshop today. And I've got the windows open. All batteries get recycled. We'll have a little box for old batteries. In fact, I've changed quite a lot of batteries for friends and colleagues. Quite a lot. Right, where was I? Yes, okay. So, see that kind of crackly finish on the metal? That's all soldered up on the surface. That's what I need to grind away. Because I need just pure solder underneath, otherwise when I start work on the project proper, the solder's going to start melting off. So, I'm going to start making some noise, grinder out. Oh, you can't see what I'm doing, sorry. Not that you can see a huge amount from here anyway, because I'm going to be doing it down towards the skin. Well, you can still not see very much down here, but actually, that's an idea. What am I surrounded that for? I've got my mohawk cap, which will probably crap out on me as soon as I try and move it. Let's get that down. And adjust the angle, and we should be able to get that view. There we go. There's a reason. I knew there was a reason I dug this camera out. Right, I still need to get chat and all that kind of stuff added to the side of the screen. So let's take workbench, duplicate that. Delete this scene. Workbench 2. And HD webcam, full frame. And Sony. I'll send that to back. There we go. That should do nicely, shouldn't it? Shed some light on the situation. Actually, with the light on, you'll see all the little grains of silver flying around. So, that's how it looks in a minute, all kind of crinkly. Focus. It's looking all kind of crinkly and matte. You know, the funny thing is one of those courses that I did at the beginning of the year, well, actually two of them now, both required me to do health and safety training if I was working on a construction site. So I am actually qualified for all that stuff. In fact, I was one of the few people who passed it the first time. Some of the guys have done it 3 times now and they still can't seem to pass that test, and it's bloody multiple choice. So, I don't know if you see in there, that's all the dust and debris that I've collected today. That's all silver dust. Oh, that's cool. Funny thing that, being hot. You wouldn't have thought. Cool down for it. So I've ground off maybe $5 or $6 worth of silver, maybe a bit more than that, just today. all that gets swept up, and eventually when I've got enough to justify the postage, I'll get that shipped off and melted down, and then I get paid scrap price for it. If I brush it into corner here, you'll be able to see. There, that's all silver dust. Little bits of some steel wire in there as well, but that's mostly silver dust from grinding just to that, because I swept out this area before I started work. Let's get those bits of wire onto. So this is wire that I've used to basically tie pieces of metal together while I was working. Probably from when I was soldering. I should have cleaned this out. So this is just steel wire. This isn't anything valuable. It could get just left in there and recycled. The company pays you by weight. So you send in a kilo worth of scrap and they'll just give you a scrap price based on the overall weight, but it won't be the actual scrap price for silver. So, is it in your interest to leave a load of crap in there for them to sort out? Will you get paid for all that extra steel in there? Yes, technically, but that's not ethical. Or at least I don't believe that's ethical. To bulk up the weight with stuff that you know they're going to have to remove. And if they see a load of like broken saw blades and stuff in there and cardboard from these kind of little sanding strips, if they see all this kind of stuff in there, they'll give you a lower price anyway. I haven't needed to do this yet because I just haven't generated as much waste. I don't know how old this thing is because it doesn't seem to be overly sharp. There are a couple more on here. Try one of the others, see if it's any sharper. These things are really old. They don't stay sharp for long. That one's really aggressive. That might be too much. In other words, I'm going to have trouble holding onto the piece. Oh, that's still hot. Burning my fingers. Oh god, yeah, this is way more aggressive. Let to cool down, and then we'll anneal it. There goes another $1. Let's pull this back. It's a slightly more interesting angle. Soft rooms. That's alright, Sam. I'm doing the same. Fiddling around with all my settings on here. It's been so long since I've streamed from this machine. Trying to figure out how to make my chat box dark in the background. You can't really read it over. It's only when, even if I turn the light off, you can't really read it. properties. Yeah, properties to do some size. Set color. Doesn't seem to do anything. Oh, well, that's done an inverse. That's interesting. Car's driving fast. Okay, I'll leave that. That looks absolutely horrific, doesn't it? Really? Clearly a while ago. If you get yourself on a D&D stream, I'm sure you'll be happy to see you open it there. Okay, I can't figure this out. I just want the background to be transparent dark. Stick it to normal again. I choose not to judge other sex, really. Suppose that's spending so much time around Marie and how the Germans are so open and forthcoming about all that stuff. They literally give no shits. Until it comes to their data privacy, then they give a lot of shits. In fact, given that a lot of Germans are into just shit, sometimes on camera. Not Marie, just Germans in general. Sorry, that conversation requires so many caveats before we can go down the road there. Right, let's get the camera over here. This is the mill. So this is hand cranking, and this will effectively flatten out the metal into a nice sheet. I have learned things about milling. Apparently I haven't been doing it right a lot of this time. So this is stretching the metal out. I'm going down by fractions of a millimetre at a time. Now this is why you need to anneal the metal, to soften the metal. Because if I don't, and I continue milling while the metal's hard, it will just crack rather than squishing. Kind of think of it like you're like rolling out pastry. If the pastry's too warm, it'll start getting sticky and tearing. So you roll that pastry when it's cold. Metal, you do it the other way around. You want the metal nice and soft, because if it's cold, it will start cracking. Book of matches. So you can see the metal's already flattening down to a more uniform thickness. Draw it out. Right, now still heat to soften the metal. Don't have a huge amount of bench space, to be honest, working here. Right, that is still slightly warm. So is that, and that's been an hour. But it's cool enough to go back in the drawer, because the drawers are metal. Which one are we going? Parasitisms. Did you open it then? Yeah, that's when accidents happen, when I do stupid stuff like that. That was dangerous. So I get this cherry red again. There we go. And we'll leave that to cool down. Well, reach out to the guys about D&D. See if we can get D&D started up again. Now that you've done all your concepts, or the majority of them. Find out from Brian when his next couple of days off is going to be. And we'll get D&D back up and running. My other group have got maybe a year left on the campaign because they're way ahead of you guys. That's my local group here, which hopefully at some point you'll get to meet. Because most of them have seen clips from the stream, so most of them know who you are, and the others, of course, because they've seen the few that joined slightly late into the campaign have gone back and watched the Twitch stream to kind of catch up on the backstory. They know the story is the same, the overarching story. The events might be slightly different, but the story's basically the same. So most of the guys that joined late ended up watching the stream to kind of catch up. Well, check with Brian what his cycle is, because depending on his works, it may not be the first week of August anyway. Yeah, that's very you, isn't it? Happy and social, good-natured. I don't know how you manage it, honestly. And all the shit that's going on and the kind of chronic pain that you're in, I don't know how you keep a happy face on. I know I certainly can't do it. But yeah, if they're giving you more work, then definitely take it. I wouldn't mind a film festival one day. So many opportunities to do that kind of stuff in London. Just didn't get round to it. And then no more of them. And then kind of peeking at you through the drill. If I move it any further this way, it won't reach. If I move it further this way, it's actually in the way of my elbow. It's like it's smacking my elbow on it. So this is still the best place for it, even though it's a bit awkward. Yeah, I get that. But you know I see through that stuff really easily. Even if it's not somebody I know well, I can still see them putting on the front. That was one of the curses my mother left on me, being able to read people. Right, back to rolling. I did notice that you had a VIP bracelet in one of your Snapchat posts. I thought that was just because you were working the boom, but I didn't think that would be correct. But yeah, if your boss has taken notice of you, such and such, that's a testament to the quality of work you're doing. Just remember to take care of yourself in between, because I don't think anybody, your family, friends, stream, are going to be happy knowing that one squirrel all through August and September, and then it takes you 6 months before you can walk again. So I know the medication is going to be helping, but don't take that for granted that you're yours. Just take it easy out there. Sit down and drink some water. I know you've heard it before. You don't need to talk about it. But we haven't seen you on stream for the best part of 6 months because you've either been slightly broken or you've been busy working. So that's the metal now. Thinned out, probably reduced it by half. I'm going to take it down to about a mil. Let's see what we have at the moment. All these batteries are knackered. I need to replace the batteries in those. Do I have manual calipers? Yes, I do. So we are at 4 points. Mm-hmm. 4.96. So just off 5 mil at the moment. And just for the sake of it, let's weigh it. Yeah, that's more. 10.9 grams of sodium. I feel the metal getting hard. Every time you work the metal, hammer you're squeezing it or bending it, it works hard against the metal. And it makes the metal brittle. And this is normally when you start getting cracking. So, let's get you there. So now we need to anneal again. Soften the metal back up. No, that was cool that you brought Lindsay in, I agree. Yeah, I haven't. I mean, apart from a little bit of Helldivers, all I've done is some VR streaming. And I think that only gets one or two people watching anyway, mostly BJ coming in to support me. But he's in Australia, so round about now when I'm online, he's just kind of finishing up his day. Sorry, starting is about 9 hours ahead. He's usually lurking in the back of my streams. I think he's been in every VR stream I've ever done, even if he's not commenting or participating. I gave him VIP just for that, just because he's always there, even if he is quiet, always there supporting, just everywhere of him. Right, let's change the batteries in this calipers. It's definitely not all 44. Yep, better. 042. Yep. A successful job done. I know, doing lots of teeny little jobs and getting lots of little things done seems to be far more motivating than doing something big. But I don't suppose that's, well, I don't suppose that's going to be surprising. That's in the acid. So it's nearly 7 p.m. Do you want me to send you my text file with all the filters on? I can ping you that over on Facebook chat messenger. You'll end up having to adjust the noise gates and such, but at least you can check what they should be and then tweak them from there. Remember, anything with decibels is the opposite. So if you want to increase, you have to bring the number down. Give me 2 seconds, let me get a browser open. I had to reset mine today when I got everything back up and running. Oh, I've got to log back into everything, haven't I? Alright, there you go, Sam. That's all the mic filters. Same to your Facebook Messenger. So the noise gate is probably the trickiest one. That's the one where the numbers work backwards. So if you want the noise gate to open earlier, you have to increase, because it's a negative value, you've got to go the other way that you think you have to. So towards the right will cut off more noise, towards the left it makes it more sensitive. Right, that should be done in a message. Right, car is fully charged. Okay, so that's now annealed again, so we can go back to milling. Not to move the camera, not bad. Cool, nice. I think mine works as well. Maybe not on this laptop, but I know it was working on my main rig downstairs. Okay, so check out Silver Streak has popped up on the screen, but it's not playing any video clips. So yeah, it looks like it's kind of working. It is there. Maybe it's just because you haven't been on stream for so long. I wonder if it'll do me. No, it's still shouting out you at the minute. So we were at 5 mil. We are now down to 2.5. And I started at approximately 7. So we're down to 2.5. So we've got a really thick disc here, but you can see how much compared to the bit that I was cutting off, which is around about the same size, because this was taken straight out of the mold. You can see the difference in the thickness that I've managed to mill it down from. I think a Bluetooth headset would probably be better overall. You can get the little Bluetooth dongles off Amazon. Why is your shout out just permanently locked on my face? This is free advertising for your channel somehow. It's like, no, I'm not happy with that. Go away. Bluetooth will probably be better overall. You can get a dongle for about, well, they're dirt cheap over here, about $15 or $20 maybe. Yeah, any Bluetooth headset would connect to that, as long as you get a new dongle with Bluetooth 4 or Bluetooth 5. any Bluetooth headset, including earbuds like these, will. Like, I mean, these are my Samsung earbuds. I don't know if you've still got the ones I bought you guys, but they're relatively cheap. I think they're only about $40 for those wireless earbuds that I bought you and the kids. So a Bluetooth dongle overall would be better. Quality is not going to be that much difference. You're not going to get any latency. I mean, you can buy like a Logitech one and it will come with a dongle, but then that dongle will only work with that Logitech. Well, no, that dongle should be an open Bluetooth connection. It's just another way for them to charge you more money for it. But yeah, any Bluetooth dongle will work with earbuds. My gaming rig downstairs, I just added a generic Bluetooth dongle. I've still got a wireless keyboard Bluetooth dongle as well, because that keyboard is only going to work with that dongle. But if you buy a generic dongle, you can use any like headphones with them as long as it's high enough in the Bluetooth stack. So Bluetooth 4, Bluetooth 5. I'll have a look on Amazon. But yeah, if you've still got those cheap wireless ones I bought you guys like ages ago now, they will work, because I bought something similar in a local computer shop because I forgot my proper ones on a trip down south, and I just went into the first like newsagent pharmacy I could find and bought a pair of Bluetooth headphones, and they work straight away. Yeah, so just any old dongle off of Amazon, as long as it's the right version of Bluetooth. Software shouldn't be a problem. Windows has got all that built in now. If you were running Windows 10 or Windows 11, that's all built into Windows. Wired headsets will always give you the best audio quality, the best mic quality, but that would depend on how good the mic and the headset actually is. So again, it comes down to what you want. I prefer a boom mic with Bluetooth earbuds, just because I've got freedom to move around. But the boom mic is always going to be better quality than a headset mic. Headset mics tend to be garbage unless you're spending $200 or $300 on them. The earbuds I bought you, I don't know if they do have microphones in them, so you can do voice calls. But they don't have noise cancelling. I think that's why they were one of the cheaper ones. So you might be able to use the mic on the earbuds. It just might be a bit of a fiddle to get it to set up in the software, but you should be able to get the mic set up, because I've done that with my cheap earbuds that are downstairs on the computer, and these Samsung ones, I've done it with my other laptop. But yeah, boom mic will always be better quality, and earbuds mic will be probably the lowest quality. The mic on a webcam like this one will be slightly better quality. But the boom mic will always be better. But then you need to make sure you get a mic, whether it's one of those like Yeti snowball things that everybody used to have 10 years ago, or like a boom mic like I was running. I think I bought you an amplifier. So yeah, if it's got an amp built into the mic, you're good. You just plug it into USB. If it's one like mine where it's got XLR outlets, like guitar outputs, like the 3-pin large connector, you need an amplifier. And I'm pretty sure either me or Mark bought you something like that in a bundle with the arm and the stuff. Right, we need to kneel. That's what I was going to do. The Yeti can be used on a boom because you can screw it into an overhead arm, but that's USB, so that doesn't require an amplifier. Just waiting for the machine to warm up. It's like a bloody hall of mirrors in here with all these cameras swapping in it. Burn it with fire. Burns, burns, burns. The burn Venus. The burn IBS is a burning ring of fire. And chilling secrets from those flames go high. Burns, burns. The burn Venus. The burn Venus. Oh, I wanted to ask, have you since had pineapple on pizza since I was there? It's been a couple of years. Don't know if you wanted to revisit. So you can see there's some liquid coming on the surface of this metal. That's more solder coming out. So I want to get that as liquid as possible on the surface so I can file that away. And then we can get back to running it through the mill. Okay, I haven't got my clips right on here. I need to check my other system and find out what the link is and get that added. So you can see that's gone all black and nasty because that's more solder coming out in the metal. Unfortunately, that's not on the surface. That seems to be below the surface. That's going to be a pain in the ass to grind out. Yeah, I should have been a bit more careful when I was pouring. This is why I wanted to grind all the solder off the surface before I started, because once I start cutting that out, when I start heating the metal, part of the design may start melting up from underneath it when the rest of it is still good. I was having that issue when I was making the cufflinks. Parts of it were melting when the rest of the metal was absolutely fine. Just got no alerts. pt7. go back to doing some grinding. Yeah, it's cool enough to handle. It's working, but it's too slow. Got it from the grinder.